We're going to be talking about European colonization of the New World, also known as the Americas. We're going to focus on North America because that's where the United States is, but we will go into some of South America as well. So there were three main European powers that took control of the Americas. First one's going to be France, Great Britain, and Spain. Great Britain is also called England. You will hear those interchangeable. England is a state, kind of like a state in Great Britain, but I use them interchangeably when we're talking about United States history. All three of these countries are extremely competitive against each other. A lot of this is because the monarchs, the kings and queens of all three of these countries were related. They were cousins, and I'm very competitive with my cousins, so of course they're going to be competitive with each other too. And they were all three very, very powerful. Together they controlled most of the world. Europe was getting overpopulation. That caused part of their reason for wanting to expand into the New World. But the other three reasons are gold, God, and glory. They wanted to spread their Christian God to the natives. They wanted to get money, because who doesn't? And then they also wanted to spread their name, and this goes back to being competitive. The more parts of the world you control, the better your country looks. So here's a real STAAR question. You can pause this. So also pause this map. I need you to go ahead and copy this map over into your notes and look at how competitive these countries, look how close these competitive countries are. They're really, really close to each other in some parts, which is going to cause some conflict. So discovering the Americas, I say quotes because you can't discover something when people are already here. We already had natives here hundreds and hundreds of years before the Europeans, and even the Vikings were here hundreds of years before the three main powerhouse European countries. But we credit Christopher Columbus. He sailed the ocean blue in the summer of 1492, and he discovered Cuba, which he thought was the West Indies, their islands. This is where we get the term Indians from. He called Native Americans Indians, which is obviously not correct because Indians live in India, not in North America. So Spain is going to be the first country to really, really colonize the Americas. Spain wanted to spread their Catholic religion through converting the native population. They did this by harshly treating Native Americans to convert. Most of them didn't understand Spanish. So they're sitting here saying, you have to convert, you have to take and praise our Christian God, and they literally don't understand any of it. And if the natives do not agree to something they don't understand, they would brutally treat them, brutally murder them, do terrible things in order to get them just to accept Jesus as the Son of God. Eventually, Spaniards intermarried with native women because Spanish women didn't come over. And this is where we get native Hispanics and Latinos, who are a mix of Spanish and natives combined to create a new race. So you have Spain and Spanish people who are European. Europeans tend to be light-colored skin, light-colored eyes, light-colored hair. Hispanics, on the other hand, tend to be darker skin, darker color hair, darker color eyes, because they were mixed with the natives who had those characteristics. And every once in a while you will find a Hispanic person that does have light skin, does have light eyes, and does have blonde hair. I have a friend that's from Mexico, and she has blue eyes, blonde hair, and freckles. Well, it's because most of her ancestors were more from Spain than from the native population. Conquistadors are going to be conquerors. They find gold in South America, and it led to a major gold rush. Now, when you find out your cousin found gold, obviously people are going to start rushing there. Well, anyone, not just your cousin, but you're going to be competitive, more competitive. So France and England, of course, are going to start coming over because they hear that there's gold in the New World. The geography of these regions, at least in North America, think Mexico, it's going to be hot, it's going to be dry, and they're going to be grasslands, which means they're not going to really be able to grow much for food. So they ranched. They raised livestock, cows, horses, sheep, goats, etc. France is going to be the next country to really colonize. You have the geography, which is cold, and they have many, many water sources. Now, France is straight across the Atlantic Ocean from Canada. So all these Frenchmen are getting on the boat in their shorts because France has a very similar climate to Texas. It's very hot in the summer. They're getting on the boat in shorts thinking it's going to be warm here. They get to Canada. Obviously, it's not that case. So a lot of them had inadequate supplies when coming off the ship. The economy of the new French colonies in Canada, what kind of material or clothing do you think is going to be the warmest for the cold weather? Because think, they come over in shorts. So what kind of material is going to be the best material to keep warm? It's going to be fur. Fur is going to be the best material to keep you warm. So most Frenchmen hunted for pelts, for fur. And beavers were something that Europe did not have. So whenever the French found beavers, took them back to Europe, all of a sudden we have this new kind of fur, and beavers lived in the water, so they were waterproof. It was waterproof fur. It was perfect, and they made a lot of money off of doing this. Since they needed to know where these animals were, it was a new land for them, the Frenchmen befriended natives. It helped them find resources. They were Catholic, but they didn't force this on the natives, unlike Spain. They wanted to be friends with the natives. They didn't believe in slavery. The French were very progressive. They believed in women's rights early on, and they didn't believe in slavery at this time. So here's another STAAR question. And another one. So Dutch New Netherlands. The Dutch were big on trade. They controlled trade in their home country. So when they came over to the Americas, they did the same thing. They settled along large rivers to control trade. If you control the river, you control what goes in and out of the river, which means you control products and trade that go on the river. Eventually, these territories were ceded to Great Britain when a Dutch prince became king of England. So he married up, and the land went with him. New York and around the Delaware River is going to be where they originally settled. It changed into New York once the English took control of it. So the 13 British and English colonies each had different reasons for settling. They all had different geography, and as a result, they had a different economy. They did all have a tendency to mistreat minorities. This includes Native Americans, Africans that were brought over in the transatlantic slave trade, and women as well. So stop and think. What do you think some lasting effects of these European powers in the New World would be? Try to think of at least two for each.